Can you imagine coming home every day and feeling peaceful instead of stressed out by clutter? Today, I'm going to tell you the secret that many people use to keep their homes organized forever, not just for a few days. This method has changed the lives of thousands of people who suffered from constant clutter. The truth is that most people try to organize their homes the wrong way, and this causes the clutter to keep coming back. But there is a better way. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how to end this frustrating cycle of tidying and messing, tidying and messing. If you're tired of living in a disorganized home, don't leave this video, because what I'm going to share now can completely transform your environment and reduce your daily stress. You'll discover why most people fail when trying to keep their homes tidy and how a simple 5-step method can solve this problem forever. Are you ready to learn the secret? Tip 1. The 5 things principle. The first thing we need to understand is the 5 things principle. When we walk into any room in our home, our eyes naturally focus on about 5 different elements before forming an overall impression of the space. This is why we often feel like a place is messy, even when only a few things are out of place. This principle teaches us that we don't have to organize everything at once to notice a difference. The problem is that most people try to do big cleanings that take up entire days, eventually get tired and give up. The clutter quickly returns, and the cycle starts all over again. Instead, we can use the 5 things principle to our advantage. Every time we walk into a room, identify the 5 most visible items that are out of place and put them away immediately. This simple act takes less than 2 minutes, but it makes a dramatic visual impact. One client told me that after applying this principle for just 3 days, her husband asked if she had hired a cleaner because the house seemed so much more organized. When we practice this principle daily, we create a habit that makes organization a natural part of our routine. We no longer need to dedicate an entire day to tidying up our house because it simply doesn't get too messy. The best part about this method is that it works for anyone, regardless of the size of their home or the amount of items they have. It's simple, quick, and extremely effective. Tip 2. The one-touch rule. Imagine this. You come home tired after a long day. Throw your bag on the couch, put your keys on the kitchen table, leave your shoes in the middle of the living room and the mail on the dining table. Without realizing it, you have just created 4 clutter spots in less than a minute. This is the problem that the one-touch rule solves. This rule states that we should touch each object only once before putting it away. It seems simple, but it will completely change the way you interact with the objects in your home. The problem is that many times we pick up something with the intention of putting it away later, but that later rarely comes, and objects accumulate on surfaces throughout the house. To apply this rule, you need to get into the habit of never putting an object down temporarily. When you pick up your keys, take them directly to the hook or tray where they belong. When you take off your coat, immediately hang it in the closet instead of throwing it over a chair. One woman told me that after applying this rule for just 2 weeks, she realized that she no longer had to spend hours on the weekend picking up items scattered around the house. Everything was naturally in its place. The one-touch rule eliminates those little moments of laziness that, when added together, create daily clutter. With this method, you invest seconds putting away each item at the right time instead of spending hours tidying everything up all at once later. Another benefit is that you will never waste time looking for items again because they will always be where they should be. Tip 3. The empty box method. The empty box method is one of the most powerful techniques for keeping your space permanently organized. The principle is simple but revolutionary. Start with an empty space and only add what really needs to be there. Most people do the opposite. They start with an area full of stuff and try to decide what to take out. This approach often leads us to keep much more than we really need. The problem is that our brains have a hard time letting go of things, even when we rarely use them. To apply the empty box method, choose a drawer, a closet, or even an entire room. Remove absolutely everything from that space. Then clean the place thoroughly. Now comes the important part. Before you put any item back, ask yourself this question: does this item really need to be here? If the answer is yes, put it back in the space, but in an organized way. If the answer is no, find a more appropriate place for it or consider donating it. One client applied this method to the kitchen drawer where she kept utensils. She removed all 45 items from the drawer, cleaned out the drawer, and then put back only the 15 items she actually used frequently. The result was a much more functional drawer where she could easily find what she needed. What's even more impressive is that 6 months later, the drawer was still organized. That's because by deliberately reducing what we keep in each space, we create areas that are naturally easier to keep organized. Between tips 3 and 4, I want to make a special invitation. If you are enjoying these tips that are transforming the lives of so many people, be sure to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to receive more content like this. Leave a comment telling me where you are watching this video from. I love knowing that I'm helping people from different places. Now let's continue with more valuable tips that will transform your home. Tip 4. The 15 minutes a day technique. The 15 minutes a day technique is one of the simplest and most effective secrets to keeping your home permanently organized. Many people believe that they need to dedicate entire days to organizing their home, but the truth is that small daily actions are much more effective in maintaining order. The problem is that when we put off organizing until we have enough time, that time rarely comes and the mess just gets bigger. The solution is to set aside just 15 minutes a day, every day, to organize a small space in your home. It could be a drawer, a shelf, or even the surface of a desk. The important thing is to be consistent and do it every day. Set a timer to set aside exactly 15 minutes. When the alarm goes off, stop what you're doing, even if you haven't finished. The next day, pick up where you left off or choose another small space. One woman told me that after applying this technique for just 3 weeks, her entire home was organized, without her having to dedicate a single whole day to it. The power of this technique is in consistency. 15 minutes may not seem like much, but when you add it up over the course of a month, it represents 7.5 hours of organization. In a year, that's 90 hours. The beauty of this method is that it eliminates procrastination, as anyone can dedicate just 15 minutes a day to this task. Plus, since time is limited, you naturally focus on the most important areas, increasing your work efficiency. Tip 5. The defined zone system. The zone system is essential for long-term organization. Many homes become cluttered because things don't have a specific place to go, so they end up scattered all over the place. The problem is that when we don't clearly define where each category of items should go, the natural tendency is to leave them wherever is convenient at the time. To implement the zone system, divide your home into specific areas and define exactly what can be stored in each one. For example, all office supplies go in a specific drawer, all medications in a specific cabinet, all tools in a designated box. Be very clear and specific about these zones. One family used this system and created a specific zone for their children's toys in the living room, a colorful trunk in the corner of the room. The rule was simple. All toys must go back in the trunk before bed. After just 2 weeks of following this rule, the children had already developed the habit of putting their toys away without their parents having to ask. The most impressive thing is that this system completely eliminates arguments about where to put things. When each item has its designated place, there's no second guessing or negotiation. Another important benefit of the zoned system is that it makes it much easier to see when you're accumulating too many items in a particular category. If your cleaning supplies zone is overflowing, that's a clear sign that you need to reevaluate what you actually use and what can be discarded. Tip 6. The 3-second technique. The 3-second technique is a simple yet incredibly effective method for combating procrastination when it comes to organizing. We've all been there when we see something out of place and think, I'll put that away later. The problem is that later rarely comes, and the little items gradually pile up until they become a huge mess. This technique is based on an important psychological principle. If a task takes less than 3 seconds to complete, it's more efficient to do it right away than to put it off. To apply the 3-second technique, whenever you notice something out of place, do a quick mental assessment. Can I put this away in less than 3 seconds? If the answer is yes, do it right away. You'll be surprised at how many small organizing tasks fall into this category. Folding a blanket on the couch, putting a cup in the sink, putting a pin in the drawer, hanging a towel in the bathroom, these all take less than 3 seconds each. One teacher who used this technique told me that her classroom, which used to be constantly messy, now stays organized effortlessly. She found that most of her tidying tasks were small, 3-second actions that, when done in the moment, prevented clutter from accumulating. The great thing about the 3-second technique is that it gradually trains our brains to prefer immediate action over delay. After a few weeks of practicing this method, you'll notice that putting things away immediately becomes an automatic habit with almost no conscious effort. Another benefit is the time savings. Many small 3-second tasks completed throughout the day eliminate the need for a big tidying session later. Tip 7. The entry and exit principle. The in and out principle is essential to preventing clutter in your home. The rule is simple but powerful. For every new item that comes into your home, at least one old item must go out. This balance prevents the volume of stuff you own from continually growing. The problem many people face is that they keep acquiring new items without getting rid of the old ones, which inevitably leads to clutter and disorganization, no matter how good their storage system is. To apply this principle, make a habit of evaluating what can be donated, recycled, or discarded every time you buy something new. For example, when you buy a new shirt, set aside an old one to donate. When you buy a new book, find one on your bookshelf that you can pass on. One family who applied this principle created a donation box in their hallway closet where they would regularly put items to donate. When they bought something new, they would immediately decide what would go in the box. Each month, they would take the box to charity. After 6 months of following this system, they realized they had much less stuff to organize and clean, which made maintaining their home much easier. The most interesting thing is that this principle also makes us more conscious consumers. When we know that each new purchase means getting rid of something, we naturally think twice before making impulse purchases. This not only keeps your home more organized, but it also benefits your budget and the environment. Another advantage of this method is that it forces you to constantly evaluate what really matters to you, keeping only the items that you truly value or use. Tip 8. The full turn technique. The complete rotation technique is a simple but surprisingly effective method for keeping your closets and drawers permanently organized. Oftentimes, our storage areas become disorganized because we keep piling new items at the front or top, while the items at the back or bottom get forgotten. The problem is that we lose track of what we actually have and end up buying duplicates or keeping things we no longer use. The solution is to apply the complete rotation technique, which consists of always putting recently used items at the back or bottom and taking new items from the front or top. This ensures that all of your belongings are used in a rotating manner. This technique works especially well for clothing, toiletries, non-perishable food items, and office supplies. One homemaker applied this technique to her bathroom towel closet. Instead of always taking the top towel of the stack, she started putting the clean towels at the bottom of the stack and taking the ones at the top. After 3 months, she noticed that some of the towels at the bottom of the stack were faded and worn, even though they hadn't been used much. She would never have noticed this without the complete rotation technique. In addition to ensuring that all of your belongings are used equally, this technique also helps you naturally identify which items you actually use. If after a complete rotation cycle, you notice that certain items are still untouched, this is a clear sign that those items should be donated or discarded. The most impressive thing about this technique is that it virtually eliminates the need for major periodic reorganizations, since you are constantly evaluating and reorganizing your belongings naturally as you use them on a daily basis. Before I move on to the next tip, I want to tell you about something special I prepared for those who want to go beyond this video. It's a complete guide with organization secrets that completely transformed my home and can transform yours too. The link is in the pinned comment, and for a limited time, I'm offering a special discount for channel subscribers. Now let's continue with the next tips, which are some of my favorites. Tip 9. The 5 Whys Method. The 5 Whys Method is a powerful technique for dealing with areas of your home that keep getting messy despite your best efforts. Too often, we only treat the symptoms of disorganization without understanding its real causes, which causes the mess to keep coming back. The problem is that without identifying the root cause, we end up applying temporary solutions that don't solve the problem permanently. To use the 5 Whys method, identify an area of your home that is frequently disorganized. Then ask yourself why 5 times, delving deeper into each answer. For example, why is my entryway always messy? Because we leave coats, shoes, and bags strewn about. Why do we leave these things strewn about? Because there is no specific place to put them when we get home. Why is there no specific place? Because we have never created a proper system in this area. Why have we never created a system? Because we think we don't have enough space. Why do we think we don't have enough space? Because we have never really evaluated the storage possibilities in this area. Now that you've gotten to the root cause, you can create a truly effective solution. One family used this method to solve the problem of a dining room table that was always covered in papers. After answering the 5 whys, they discovered that the root of the problem was the lack of a designated place to process mail and documents. They created a small command center in the kitchen with specific folders for different types of documents. 6 months later, the dining room table was consistently paper-free. The power of this method is that it focuses your efforts on solutions that actually solve the underlying problem, rather than just treating the symptoms. When you understand the true cause of clutter, you can create systems that work with your natural habits, rather than constantly fighting against them. Tip 10. The Invisible Minute Strategy. The Invisible Minute Strategy is one of the most effective methods for keeping your home organized without feeling like you're spending extra time on it. Most people think they don't have enough time to dedicate to organizing, but the truth is that there are several moments throughout the day that can be used to do small organizing tasks. The problem is that we often don't recognize these invisible minutes that are scattered throughout our routine. To apply this strategy, identify moments in your day when you are waiting for something to happen. While the water boils for tea, while the microwave heats up a meal, during commercials on TV, while waiting for a phone call, or even in the few minutes before you leave a room. Use these short periods of time to do small organizing tasks. For example, while waiting for the water to boil for breakfast, you can organize the mail on the table or put away the clean dishes. While the rice cooks, you can organize a kitchen drawer. One mother who applied this strategy told me that she used to feel like she didn't have time to keep her house organized with 2 small children. After implementing the Invisible Minutes strategy, she was able to accomplish several small decluttering tasks throughout the day while supervising the kids, without having to set aside a specific time for them. What's amazing is how much decluttering can be accomplished when you add up all of these small moments. In a typical week, you can easily accumulate an hour or more of decluttering without feeling like you've put in extra time. This strategy also eliminates the feeling of overwhelm that often accompanies large decluttering sessions, because the tasks are broken down into small, manageable chunks throughout the day. Now that you know the 10 fundamental principles for keeping your home permanently organized, I want to reinforce a few important points. Remember that organization should not be a final destination, but rather a daily habit that is naturally incorporated into your routine. Each of these techniques is designed to adapt to your lifestyle, not to force you to drastically change your habits. The key is to start small. Choose just 1 or 2 of these tips to implement this week. When they become automatic, add 1 more. Don't underestimate the power of small, consistent changes over time. Many people tell me that after applying these techniques, not only their homes changed, but their entire lives changed. With less time spent organizing and looking for lost objects, they have more mental and emotional space to dedicate themselves to what really matters. The real magic happens when you realize that your home has finally become the haven of peace and tranquility that you always wanted without the constant effort it used to require. So, which of these techniques will you start applying today? Leave your choice in the comments and come back to share your results. I look forward to hearing how these tips transform your home and your life. See you in the next video.